Mr. Galvin, what's your reaction to the lingering voter fraud allegations hanging over the District 2 City Council race in Boston? And ultimately, what is your agency's responsibility in dealing with those?
Well, our first responsibility is to voters. Our awareness of the only issue that's been brought to our attention directly has to do with whether voters in some buildings there received absentee ballots having not requested them, or whether they were properly presented to the voters rather. We did not receive any direct contact from voters. I think you have to bear in mind that these areas, this one, and also I would mention District 1, which is the East Boston District, have two very intense contests going on for the City Council. So the campaigns oftentimes bring forward various allegations. We have not received direct contact from any voters. Nevertheless, we have instructed Boston what they must do to protect voters' rights here. What's important to note about absent ballots is this. The voter always retains the right to pull back the absent ballot and vote in person should they choose. The absent ballot is not actually cast or counted until Election Day, and it's not even put in the box until Election Day. So even if it's been returned and processed, that does not necessarily mean it's going to be cast. And if a voter has in fact decided that either they didn't want to vote the way they did or they didn't reflect their choice, they have the absolute right to go to the polls, vote in person, and that absentee ballot will be destroyed. So we reminded Boston of that. That's the most important thing. And that applies, I should also say, to the District 1 situation where we're also hearing from candidates' representatives. Regarding fraud, that was your word, not mine, we have not received any specific evidence of fraud, but I would point you to our past experiences with regard to any kind of voter fraud in Massachusetts, where we have vigorously sought prosecution from the prosecutorial authorities. Most recently, for instance, in Hampden County, where I believe as a result of our referral, an individual went to jail. So we take it very seriously. We're also aware of the fact that campaigns like to foment and throw around these words. We want to focus on the voters at least till 8 p.m. tomorrow night. After that, if there are issues of conduct by individuals, we'll be happy to participate and investigate. Boston has had a troubled past, not so much exclusively with absent ballots, but election procedures in general. Some of you may recall that some years ago, this office had to take over the functioning of the day-to-day operations of the Boston Election Department because of competency issues. We like to think we've moved beyond that. Time will tell whether Boston's capabilities are there, meet our standard. If they don't, if we sense there's a serious matter of incompetence, once again, we would move to do something about it.
Well, leaders with the Boston Elections Department are saying that they passed along these voter fraud allegations to your office.
Well, let me be more clear. There is a competency issue when it comes to the Boston Election Department that I've tried to be polite about. Their only inquiries to us have related to the issue of these voters and the claims being made by campaigns that some of these voters had not chosen to vote absentee. We gave Boston the information of what to do, which we believe they are doing. They're telling these voters rightly that they have the right to, in fact, if they need to, give them a new ballot and go to the polls. It's our information that's the case. But Boston itself has not presented us with any evidence of fraud, your word again. I would only tell you that our interest remains in the voters and will stay that way until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. After the voters' rights are protected and after the election is concluded, if there are conduct issues regarding either people, individuals, campaigns, or election officials, we will take action as we have in the past. In the case of criminal action, we will refer it to the appropriate people for prosecution. I mentioned to you the Hampden case. There was an absent ballot case with brought by the United States Attorney, a federal case that resulted in a state representative from Everett going to jail. Once again, I think our record is pretty clear. As regard to the competence of local election officials, as I said, in previous times, we took over functional operation day-to-day of the Boston Election Department. I sincerely hope that won't be necessary again, but if it is, we will.
They presented evidence, though, that's my question.
No,
Who would you
they
pass
did
it
not.
on?
You
Who
said
would you-
that.
Right, but who would you pass it on to if they did present
Well,
evidence?
I'll take, when and if there's evidence, we'll decide the appropriate result of where it should go, okay? There has not been evidence presented to us at all.